The rain hit the red dirt roads of Umeå like a warning drum, pounding against rooftops, the river, and the winding paths through the palm trees. Zainabu ran, bare feet slipping in the mud, clutching the small bundle her father had pressed into her hands. Her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. Behind her, voices yelled in panic, the distant crack of thunder mixing with the chaos. She stumbled, slid, and landed in the mud, her face hitting a sharp stone. Pain exploded across her cheek, and for a moment the world went dark. "Zainabu, are you all right?" Her father's voice cut through the storm, desperate and fierce. She looked up, rain-soaked hair plastered to her face, and saw his eyes wide, panicked but full of relief. "I'm fine, Baba," she gasped, though every word burned her throat. Tund pulled her into his arms, ignoring the mud and blood. "Don't ever run that fast again. Please. My heart can't take it." The world had been chaotic since the day Zainabu was born, but Tund's presence was the one constant. Her mother had died when she was a baby, leaving her in his care, and he had loved her fiercely, filling her days with stories, lullabies, and the warmth of a steady hand on her head. But even in this storm, danger seemed to find her. "Baba, she started, but he shook his head, pressing a finger to her lips. "No words now, just get inside." Inside the hut, the fire flickered, and the smell of wet earth mixed with smoke. Zainabu shivered, hugging her knees to her chest. "It's not fair," she whispered. "Why does it always feel like the world is against me?" Tund knelt before her, wiping the mud from her cheeks. "Life is hard, my child, yes. But you are stronger than this storm. Stronger than the pain. Remember that." She nodded, tears blending with rain-soaked dirt. "I want to be strong like you, Baba. You are, Zainabu. You don't know it yet, but you are." Outside, the rain continued to fall, relentless. Little did she know, this night would not be the last time her life would twist violently. And soon, the very people she trusted most would become her greatest enemies. But for now, in that moment, she was safe, cradled in her father's arms, unaware of the cruel chain of events that would soon demand courage far beyond her years. The next morning, the air in Tund's compound felt different. Zainabu noticed it first. The quiet hum of the river and the chirping birds remained, but something heavier pressed on her chest. She was sweeping the courtyard when a carriage from the neighboring village rattled down the path. A woman stepped out, wrapped in bright wrappers and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She held the hand of a girl just a year older than Zainabu. "This is my Kuti," her father announced, trying to hide the uncertainty in his voice. "She has come to help raise you, and her daughter Safia will live with us as well." Zainabu looked at the woman, then the girl. Safia's eyes sparkled with curiosity and mischief. She smiled. Zainabu felt a pang of something she couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or a whisper that life was about to change. "You will be like sisters," Tund said, placing a hand on Zainabu's shoulder. "I want you to take care of each other." "Of course," Zainabu murmured, though her small voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. First, my Kuti was kind. She cooked fragrant stews, braided Zainabu's hair, and laughed at her clumsy attempts to help. Safia was playful, teaching Zainabu songs and games. For a few weeks, the house was filled with laughter, and Zainabu let herself believe that life could be gentle again. But evenings brought whispers. Zainabu would hear my Kuti muttering to Safia in the kitchen. "Look at her, always quiet, always behind. A girl like her, she'll never shine." And when Tund's back was turned, Zainabu began noticing the small slights, being sent for water first, carrying the heavier bundles, the way Safia's words always came first. One night, she asked her father quietly, "Baba, am I not enough?" Tund's face tightened. He knelt beside her, holding her small hands. "Zainabu, you are more than enough. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." But deep inside, she felt the first prick of doubt, the first taste of the cruelty that would later define her life. And little did she know, my Kuti's smile was only the beginning of a storm far worse than rain. The next morning, the village seemed brighter, but Tund's compound was quiet in a way that made Zainabu uneasy. Her father had been working at the palm grove since dawn, and she followed Safia to the river to fetch water. The sun gleamed off the river, mocking the heaviness in her chest. "Zainabu, hurry up," Safia said, twirling a strand of her dark hair. "You move like a snail." Zainabu forced a smile. "I'm coming," she murmured, though her feet felt like they were weighed down by lead. Hours passed. The chores piled up, By midday, Zainabu returned to the compound to find villagers gathering, whispering, their faces drawn tight with fear. "Baba," she called, running toward the grove. The villagers parted, shaking their heads. Tund lay beneath a fallen palm tree, the red earth soaking his shirt. His breathing was shallow, ragged. Zainabu ran to him, heart hammering. "Baba! Baba, wake up!" One of the men shook his head slowly. "It's too late, child. He's gone." The words didn't make sense. Zainabu fell beside him, pressing her small hands against his chest, willing him to rise. No, please. You can't leave me. Baba, please." Maikudi stepped forward, her face unreadable, though Zainabu thought she saw a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. Safia stayed behind her, staring at the ground. Zainabu's tears fell, soaking the earth, and with them came a bitter realization. She was alone, truly alone. No gentle lullabies, no warm hand to guide her, no safety. Only the looming presence of Maikudi, and the shadow of Safia's advantage. That evening, as the sky bled orange and purple, Zainabu sat in the corner of the compound, the wind whispering through the palms. "Why does this always happen to me?" she whispered to herself, the pain gnawing at her chest. She heard footsteps and stiffened. Maikudi stood over her, arms crossed. "The work doesn't stop because your father is gone," she said coldly. "Now, get up and fetch water before sunset." Zainabu nodded silently, her small body trembling with anger and grief. Inside, a spark ignited, a determination she didn't yet understand. She would survive. She had to. Even as the night swallowed the village, she clenched her fists. "I will not let her win," she whispered, and for the first time, her fear mingled with defiance. From that day, Zainabu's life shifted. Every dawn brought labor, and every night left her bones aching. Maikudi's kindness vanished, replaced by sharp words, cruel smiles, and endless chores. Safia skipped freely to school, laughing with friends while Zainabu carried water, chopped wood, and swept the compound from before sunrise until the stars blinked awake. "You're too slow," Maikudi snapped one afternoon, slamming a heavy basket of yams onto the floor. "Do you want the neighbors to see what a useless girl you are?" Zainabu's lips trembled. I'm trying, Maikudi," she whispered, bending lower to pick up the spilled yams. Maikudi's eyes narrowed. "Trying is not enough. You're not my daughter. You will never be anything but a shadow." Safia giggled behind her mother, whispering, "Don't break Zainabu. You're too easy to push." Zainabu's hands ached. Her pride ached more. She wanted to shout, to strike, to scream at the injustice, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she bowed her head and worked faster, swallowing the humiliation with every breath. At night, she would lie on the cold earth, gazing at the sky. "Baba, why did you leave me? Why her?" she whispered into the wind. Sometimes the stars seemed to blink in answer, but the world offered no comfort. Yet Zainabu's heart remained unbroken. In the quiet moments, she helped the villagers, shared her small meals, and spoke gently to the elders. Her kindness, unnoticed by Maikudi and ridiculed by Safia, became her secret shield. Weeks passed. The labor grew heavier, the punishments sharper. Maikudi would find any excuse to humiliate her. One morning, she deliberately spilled hot water onto Zainabu's hands, and when Zainabu cried out, she laughed. A real girl would have been careful. "You deserve every drop." That night, Zainabu stared at her blistered hands, tears streaming silently. "I don't understand, why me? Why is my life only pain?" In the darkness, a quiet voice inside her answered, "Because you are strong. Because you will need every ounce of strength to survive what is coming." And so, beneath the crushing weight of cruelty, a fire began to grow in Zainabu's heart. A fire that would not be extinguished, no matter how deep the shadows cast by Maikudi and Safia. One afternoon, Maikudi sent Zainabu to the far side of the compound, near the clay pits, to gather firewood. The sun was high and the air shimmered with heat. Zainabu walked carefully, carrying a bundle that scraped against her shoulder, but Safia trailed behind, whispering, "Watch out for the hole." Zainabu frowned. "What hole?" "Just don't fall," Safia said, her tone more amused than helpful. The path was uneven, littered with stones and hidden holes. One misstep, and Zainabu's foot sank into a shallow pit. She stumbled, arms flailing, trying to keep the bundle from falling. Her chest hit the edge of a jagged stone, and she collapsed to the ground, blood seeping from her cheek. Pain ripped through her face. She tried to stand, but the bundle fell, spilling twigs across the dry earth. Her hands trembled. Her tears mixed with dust and she tasted blood. Safia ran back toward the house, laughing hysterically. She did it. She really fell. Zainabu. My Kuti's voice cut like a whip. She appeared at the edge of the pit, her bright wrappers fluttering in the wind. What have you done? Look at yourself. Useless, clumsy girl. I tripped, Zainabu stammered, clutching her bleeding face. I didn't mean to. My Kuti grabbed her roughly, inspecting the wound with a cruel, calculating eye. This will teach you to stop making me look bad. We can't have neighbors seeing a girl like this. A lesson must be learned. Before Zainabu could protest, my Kuti pressed a burning ointment into the wound, ignoring her screams. The pain was unbearable, fire lancing through her skin. She shook violently but could not escape. From that day the scar began to form. A dark, angry line that split her cheek, twisting her once smooth skin into uneven ridges. Every glance in the mirror reminded her of her failure. Every whisper from the villagers, real or imagined, cut like a knife. My Kuti declared that Zainabu would wear a mask from then on. Hide that face, she said. It's a disgrace, and it will remind you of your place. Zainabu's heart sank. The wooden mask was heavy, rough, and suffocating. She could barely breathe beneath it, but she obeyed silently, pressing it against her face. Tears leaked between the cracks, burning her eyes, but she didn't cry out. She had learned early that screaming only fed my Kuti's pleasure. That night, lying alone in the dark corner of the compound, Zainabu touched the mask with trembling hands. Why me? She whispered to the silent air. She had no answer, only the knowledge that her life had shifted forever, and the cruelty she had endured had now become permanent. Yet even under the mask, her spirit refused to break. Somewhere deep inside, a spark of defiance remained, waiting for the moment it could grow into a fire. By the following week, the villagers began to notice Zainabu's mask. Children pointed and whispered behind their hands. Look at the girl with no face, they laughed. Women crossed themselves when she passed. Men avoided her eyes. Even the elders who had once praised her gentle nature murmured in hushed tones, shaking their heads. Zainabu kept her head low, moving silently through the dusty paths. Every step felt heavier than the last, every glance from a passerby a reminder of her shame. She overheard the rumors. No man would ever choose her. She is cursed. Better to stay away. At first she tried to ignore it, telling herself, I only need to survive. But whispers have a way of echoing in your mind, twisting reality until even hope feels like a stranger. One afternoon, while fetching water by the stream, she overheard Safia telling another girl, I'll be the prince's bride one day. But her? She's nothing. A masked girl. Who would want her? Zainabu's hands trembled, and the water slipped from her palms. Why do you hate me so much? She whispered, though no one heard. She pressed the mask tighter against her face, wishing she could disappear completely. That evening she returned to the compound, exhausted and broken. My Kuti did not spare a word of comfort. You'll stay here, hidden like a shadow. You're too ugly to be seen, too foolish to be noticed. Never forget your place, she sneered. Zainabu sat by the fire, staring into the flames, feeling the weight of the mask pressing against her skin. The scars beneath it itched, burned, and ached. She thought of her father, his warm hands, his soft lullabies, and the emptiness hit her anew. Yet even in that darkness, a quiet voice inside her whispered, You are not what they say. Your heart is yours. Your worth is yours. And so she endured, invisible yet not defeated, her kindness hidden beneath layers of suffering. She helped the elders in secret, shared food with stray animals, and smiled at no one, saving the warmth for herself. The village might have shunned her, but Zainabu refused to let them steal her heart. Little did she know, the world beyond Yumu's was about to shift, and the fate she had never dared imagine was quietly making its way to her side. The morning air in Yumu's was electric with excitement. Drums pounded in the distant village square, echoing through the narrow dirt streets. A royal messenger had arrived at the gates, a rolled scroll clutched in his hands. Villagers ran to hear the proclamation. By the decree of the King of Alaru, His Highness Crown Prince Camel will choose a bride at the upcoming banquet in the royal hall. All maidens are invited. Whispers spread like wildfire. Mothers polished their daughters' hair, women adjusted wrappers, and young girls chattered with dreams of a crown. Safia spun in delight, clapping her hands. I'll be the prince's bride. I will shine like no one else. Zainabu, kneeling by the courtyard well, tightened her grip on the water jug. Her chest ached, a mixture of longing and fear pressing against her ribs. She knew she would not be allowed to attend. Maikudi had made that clear long ago. You don't need to go, Maikudi had said, her eyes glittering. Your face, your scars, they are not for the world to see. Safia will go, and she will succeed where you could never even dream. Zainabu lowered her head. The mask felt heavier than ever, pressing against her skin, reminding her of her place. Yes, Maikudi, she whispered, though her heart burned with a quiet rebellion. That evening, as the village buzzed with preparations, Zainabu watched from the edge of the compound. She saw girls rehearsing dances, mothers teaching curtsies, and the golden glow of firelight illuminating dreams she could never touch. Do you ever wish you could just be like them? She murmured to herself, tracing the edge of her mask with a trembling finger. A small voice inside her answered, steady and calm. You will not be like them. You will be more. But first you must survive. You must wait. She clenched her fists. She did not know how or when, but something deep inside whispered that fate had not forgotten her. And though the mask hid her face from the world, it could never hide the strength that lived within her. Little did Zainabu know, the coming banquet and the prince's own hidden journey would soon challenge every assumption about beauty, worth, and destiny, setting the stage for a collision that would change her life forever. The day of the banquet arrived, and the village shimmered with anticipation. Bright fabric swirled in the wind, drums beat in steady rhythm, and the aroma of roasted yams and spices filled every corner. Safia danced in her new wrappers, practicing curtsies with her mother whispering instructions into her ear. Zainabu stayed in the shadows, tasked with fetching water from the stream near the edge of the forest. The sun reflected off the flowing water, turning it into molten gold. She knelt, her reflection fractured in the ripples. The mask pressed against her skin, but she ignored the discomfort, focused only on the jug. Suddenly a weak voice called out, strained and trembling. Help, please, someone. Zainabu looked up and froze. A young man lay by the water, clothes torn, a shallow wound bleeding across his arm. Villagers passed by, ignoring him, laughing or pretending not to see. Zainabu's heart leapt. Oh, you're hurt. Here, let me help, she said, kneeling beside him. She washed his wound carefully, using water from her jug, and wrapped it in cloth she tore from her skirt. You shouldn't have stopped, he said, his voice low, but there was warmth in his eyes even beneath the dirt and pain. I couldn't leave you, Zainabu whispered, brushing mud from his forehead. No one should be ignored when they need help. He smiled faintly. Most wouldn't even look. You are different. Zainabu felt a strange flutter in her chest. She glanced down, embarrassed, wishing the mask could disappear for just a moment. I'm just trying to do what's right, she murmured. The young man chuckled softly. That is rare. You have a kind heart. Unbeknownst to Zainabu, this stranger was none other than Prince Camel, disguised to test the hearts of the village maidens. He observed her quietly, impressed by her empathy, patience, and courage. Unlike the girls at the banquet, she had not flaunted herself nor sought attention. Her beauty, or what the world thought of her face, was irrelevant. You are remarkable, he said finally, his voice firm yet gentle. I would like to meet you properly when the time is right. Zainabu only nodded, unsure of what to say. She carried him a small portion of her lunch, helping him to stand before retreating quietly. In that moment a seed was planted. A promise that the world she had thought cruel and closed might one day see her for who she truly was. Days passed after the banquet, and life in the village returned to its usual rhythm, or so it seemed. Zainabu continued her chores under Maikudi's watchful eyes, the mask pressing uncomfortably against her face, her hands rough and cracked from labor. But a quiet hope lingered in her heart, a memory of the stranger by the stream, his kind eyes, and the gentle words that had warmed her like sunlight through clouds. One morning a royal carriage rolled slowly into the village. Its polished wood gleamed, and the banners of Alaru flapped in the wind. Guards dismounted and approached Tun's old compound. No approached the house where Maikudi now ruled. Zainabu froze, gripping her broom. "Who is it?" she whispered. Safia peeked through the doorway wide-eyed. The guards announced, "By order of Prince Kamil, he requests the maiden who showed him kindness by the stream." Maikudi's face paled, her confident smile faltering for the first time. "Impossible," she spat. "That girl hasn't left her corner in weeks. You must be mistaken." But the guards were firm. "The prince's word is law. We seek the girl with a heart pure enough to help a stranger." Even when all ignored him, Zainabu's stomach twisted. Could they mean her? She pressed the mask tighter against her face, shaking. "No, it can't be me. They must mean Safia." Maikudi's voice rose, sharp and frantic. "Safia, step forward. This is your moment. The prince will choose you." Safia curtsied, smiling nervously, while Zainabu remained hidden in the corner. The guards ignored Maikudi's commands, and one stepped forward. "Bring her out. The girl who helped the wounded stranger." Time seemed to stop. Maikudi's eyes darted between Zainabu and the guards. "No. She is useless. She is hideous." Zainabu's heart pounded, but she did not run. Something inside her whispered, "This is your moment. Your heart, your kindness, your courage. This is all you have, and it is enough." The guards moved closer, and one gently touched her arm. "It is you, maiden. Come forward." Zainabu lifted her head, mask trembling against her cheek. Safia's mouth fell open, Maikudi's hands trembled, and the villagers watched in stunned silence. For the first time, Zainabu stepped out of the shadows and into destiny. Zainabu stood trembling, the weight of every cruel word, every painful chore, every whispered insult pressing down on her. Maikudi's glare burned into her back, Safia's mouth hung open, and the villagers murmured, shocked. The guards waited patiently, their eyes gentle but firm. Prince Kamil stepped forward, now out of disguise. The sunlight caught his face, casting it in a warm glow that made Zainabu blink in disbelief. "It is you," he said softly, yet with authority. "You are the one I sought." Zainabu's lips parted. "Me? Your Highness." Her voice shook, barely audible beneath the mask. "Yes," the prince replied, his gaze unwavering. "I saw your heart, not your face. I saw the way you helped a wounded stranger when no one else would. That kindness, that is rare. That is what matters." Maikudi sputtered. "No, this is absurd. She is scarred, masked. She is nothing. My daughter, she—" Prince Kamil raised a hand. "Silence. This girl's worth is not measured by her face or her appearance. It is measured by her courage, her compassion, and her integrity. And it is she I choose." Zainabu's chest tightened. She could barely believe her ears. She pressed the mask tighter to her cheek, instinctively hiding. The prince smiled gently. "You may remove it. Let the world see the one whose heart has proven itself." With shaking hands, Zainabu lifted the wooden mask. The scar was there, deep and jagged, a testament to years of cruelty. She expected horror, whispers, rejection, but instead, she met Prince Kamil's steady, admiring gaze. "You are more beautiful than any maiden at the banquet," he said, voice warm. "Not despite your scars, but because of them. They tell your story. Your strength. Your heart." Tears welled in Zainabu's eyes. For the first time she felt seen, not for her appearance but for who she truly was. Every insult, every hardship, every lonely night had led her here. The villagers whispered among themselves, stunned. Some looked ashamed. Others looked inspired. Maikudi's face turned crimson, words failing her. Safia's shoulders slumped, realization sinking in. Zainabu took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Thank you, Your Highness," she said quietly. "But I am not used to being seen. Please be patient with me." Prince Kamil bowed slightly. "I will. You will not walk this path alone. Not anymore." And with that, Zainabu stepped into a future she had only dared imagine in the privacy of her heart. A future defined not by masks or scars, but by courage, kindness, and love. The courtyard fell silent. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath as Prince Kamil stepped forward, turning his gaze toward Maikudi and Safia. "Step forward," he commanded. His voice carried the authority of a king, and yet it was calm, measured, leaving no room for defiance. Maikudi's hands trembled. "Your Highness, this is a mistake," she stammered. "Zainabu, she is nothing. You don't understand." The prince's eyes narrowed slightly. I understand perfectly. You forced labor, inflicted pain, and tried to hide her beauty from the world. You thought cruelty would make her powerless. Yet here she stands, strong, dignified, and deserving. Safia's mouth opened to speak, but she found no words. The laughter she had once used to mock Zainabu stuck in her throat. She glanced at the villagers, some of whom whispered in condemnation. Mothers shook their heads, elders muttered about justice, and even children looked at her uneasily. Prince Camel turned back to Zainabu, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. And you, Zainabu, have proven what no appearance could. A heart full of courage and kindness. It is you I honor, and you shall be safe from further cruelty. Maikudi's face twisted with rage and disbelief. No, you cannot. This is not justice. The prince's gaze hardened. Justice is not about who yells the loudest or who flaunts beauty. It is about truth. And the truth is that you caused harm and now you will be accountable. You and Safia will serve the village, the same way Zainabu was forced to serve you. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some clapped softly, others gasped, realizing the severity of the sentence. Maikudi and Safia lowered their heads, realizing that there was no escape. Zainabu's chest swelled, a mixture of relief and lingering sorrow. Her pain had been witnessed, her suffering acknowledged, and the people she had once feared now understood the cruelty she had endured. I will do as you say, Maikudi whispered, finally broken. Safia nodded silently, guilt heavy in her heart. Prince Camel turned to Zainabu with a gentle smile. Your kindness has changed this day, Zainabu. Let the village see that true beauty lies in the heart, and cruelty never goes unpunished. Zainabu felt warmth spread through her chest. For the first time she allowed herself to breathe fully, to relax, to feel the weight of injustice begin to lift. The path ahead would not be easy, but she had survived the worst, and now she had a future she could believe in. The next morning, Zainabu awoke to the sound of birds singing and the soft murmur of the river. Sunlight filtered through the small window of her room, casting golden lines across the floor. For the first time in years she felt a sense of peace, as if the world had finally exhaled. Prince Camel's royal healers arrived shortly after, carrying gentle remedies, ointments, and tools to help restore her face. Zainabu sat quietly as they worked, flinching at the sting of the medicine but determined to endure it. Hold still, child, one healer said softly, applying a cooling salve to the scar. The process will take time, but your beauty, both inside and out, will shine once more. Zainabu nodded, eyes glistening. I hope it will, she whispered. Day by day the pain eased and slowly, smooth skin began to reappear beneath the dark scar. Each morning Zainabu gazed into the mirror with cautious hope, seeing pieces of herself returning that she had feared lost forever. But the true healing was not only physical. Prince Camel spent time with her, walking through the palace gardens, talking about life, courage, and dreams. You have endured so much, he said one afternoon, his voice tender. Yet here you are, still kind, still strong. That is what makes you beautiful. Zainabu smiled faintly, her heart warming. I never thought anyone could see me that way, she admitted, her hands trembling slightly. For so long, I thought my worth was gone along with my face. The prince took her hands gently. Your worth was never in your face. It was always in your heart. And now the world will see what I have seen all along. Weeks passed. The scar faded completely, replaced by smooth, glowing skin. Zainabu felt renewed, not just in body but in spirit. She laughed again, spoke freely, and even helped the villagers, who now looked at her with respect and admiration. One evening, standing by the river where she had first met the prince, Zainabu whispered to herself, I survived. I endured. And I am whole again. The wind carried her words across the water, a quiet proclamation that she had emerged from darkness into a life filled with hope, love, and endless possibility. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, as if the sun itself had come to bless Zainabu's life. Flowers lined the palace corridors, vibrant and fragrant, and the air was filled with the soft murmur of anticipation. Villagers, nobles, and dignitaries gathered, all whispering about the maiden who had risen from shadows to stand at the side of the prince. Zainabu adjusted her gown, the delicate fabric brushing her arms. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with a mixture of excitement, pride, and awe. She glanced at Prince Camel, whose eyes softened when they met hers. "Today we begin a new chapter," he said quietly. Zainabu nodded, feeling the weight of all she had endured and the hope of what lay ahead. As the ceremony began, she walked forward with steady steps, her gaze sweeping across the crowd. Faces once cruel now looked upon her with respect. Those who had doubted her now witnessed the triumph of kindness and courage. The king performed the ceremony with solemn dignity. "May your hearts guide your actions, and your compassion lead your rule," he intoned. When the prince and Zainabu exchanged vows, their voices clear and resolute, the crowd erupted in quiet, reverent applause. As they left the ceremony, Zainabu felt the weight of her new role. She was no longer the masked girl, invisible and oppressed. She was a queen, responsible, respected, and charged with guiding her people with wisdom and kindness. Over the following weeks, Zainabu embraced her new duties. She met with elders, attended council sessions, and walked through the village, listening to the people's concerns. Where cruelty and neglect had once ruled, her compassion began to ripple outward, touching every corner of the kingdom. One evening, as she stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the village, Prince Camel joined her. "You've changed this place already," he said softly. "Your heart has healed more than your face." Zainabu smiled, the memory of the mask and the scar still fresh in her mind. "It's not just me," she replied. "The people have shown me courage too. And together we can build something better." That night, the stars above Yumiu seemed to shine brighter, reflecting the light that now radiated from a girl who had once been hidden, but whose heart had finally found its rightful place. The days following her coronation were filled with purpose. Zainabu walked through the village each morning, greeting farmers, children and elders alike. She listened to complaints about irrigation, disputes over land, and families struggling to make ends meet. No one was too small, no concern too trivial. "Your Highness," an elder said one morning, bowing low, "we feared a ruler would rule from afar, but you speak with us as if we are equals." Zainabu smiled gently. "Your voices matter. We all build this village together." She also instituted new laws to ensure fairness, punishing cruelty and rewarding kindness. Maikudi and Safia, once her tormentors, now worked alongside villagers to repair what they had broken, their servitude a reminder of justice and accountability. One afternoon, Zainabu found a young girl hiding behind a granary, her face streaked with tears. "Are you hurt, child?" she asked, kneeling beside her. The girl nodded. "My mother says I am worthless, that no one will ever love me because of how I look." Zainabu's heart clenched, remembering the whispers, the mask, the scar that had haunted her own youth. "Listen to me," she said firmly, holding the girl's hands. "Your worth is never in your face. It is in your heart, your courage, your kindness. Never let anyone tell you otherwise." Word of Zainabu's fairness and compassion spread quickly. Villagers once skeptical of the young queen now flocked to her guidance, inspired by her strength and humility. The marketplace buzzed with optimism, disputes resolved peacefully, and even the children learned that kindness and integrity mattered more than beauty or status. At night, Prince Camel would sit beside her in the palace garden, and they would talk about plans to further improve the lives of their people. "Your father would be proud," he said one evening, watching her interact with the villagers through the gate. Zainabu smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I only hope to honor his memory by being a queen who protects, listens, and cares," she replied softly. For the first time in years, Zainabu felt truly whole. The mask, the pain, the cruelty, all had shaped her into a leader who could inspire change, teach compassion, and prove that inner beauty always triumphs over outward appearances. Late one evening, Zainabu walked alone along the quiet palace gardens. The moon reflected on the river, silver and calm, and the gentle rustle of the palm trees filled the air. For a long moment, she let herself breathe deeply, remembering the girl who had once lived in shadows, masked and afraid. "Was that really me?" she thought, touching her smooth, healed cheek. She remembered the weight of cruelty, the sting of the burning ointment, the whispers of the villagers, and the suffocating mask that had defined her childhood. Tears pricked her eyes, not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming realization of how far she had come. Every hardship, every lonely night, every moment of despair had shaped her into the woman she was now, strong, kind, resilient. Prince Camel appeared quietly at her side, placing a hand over hers. "You've done more than survive," he said softly. You've transformed everything around you. You've shown the village and the world what true courage and beauty look like. Zainabu smiled faintly. I never imagined this life. I thought the mask would hide me forever. I thought no one could ever see me for who I really am. He squeezed her hand gently. And yet here you are, proof that no mask, no scar, and no cruelty can conceal a heart that is brave and kind. She looked toward the horizon, where the first hints of dawn were brushing the sky with pink and gold. I want the villagers to remember that, she whispered. That worth is never in appearances, that cruelty never wins, and that patience and courage can change destinies. Prince Camel nodded. They will remember. Because you embody it. A soft breeze carried the words through the palace gardens, whispering to the children playing nearby, to the elders tending their fields, and to every heart listening. True beauty is in kindness. True strength is in love. For Zainabu, the journey was far from over, but the mask, the scars, and the suffering were no longer chains. They were reminders of her resilience, her heart, and the life she had fought so hard to claim. And as the sun rose fully, illuminating her face and the world beyond, Zainabu felt an unshakable certainty. She had survived, she had healed, and nothing could ever take her worth away. The sun shone brightly over Yumuz as villagers gathered in the square, curious and eager. Word had spread that their young queen had something to say, a message not dictated by fear or tradition, but by the heart. Zainabu stepped onto the raised platform, her gown flowing, her face radiant and unmasked. The crowd fell silent, a ripple of anticipation passing through them. Children clutched their mothers' hands, elders leaned forward, and even Maikudi and Safia stood at the edge, heads bowed in uneasy attention. Zainabu took a deep breath. People of Yumuz, she began, her voice steady, clear, and filled with warmth. For many years I walked among you unseen, hidden behind a mask. I was forced to endure cruelty, whispers, and isolation. She paused, letting the words sink in. Murmurs spread through the crowd. But I have learned something important, she continued. Your worth is never measured by appearances, by scars, or by what others say of you. True beauty lies in the heart, in the courage to be kind when it is easier to be cruel, in the strength to rise even when life knocks you down. The villagers listened, captivated. Even the youngest children sat wide-eyed, absorbing every word. I have seen the power of compassion, she said, her gaze sweeping across familiar faces. I have learned that cruelty never goes unpunished, and that patience, hope, and resilience can change destinies. And now I want you all to remember this. The way you treat others defines your own worth. Lift each other up, protect each other, and let kindness guide your actions. A hush fell over the square. Then slowly applause began, spreading from the elders to the youth, echoing through the village. Some wept quietly, moved by her courage and truth. Prince Camel stepped forward and took her hand. She speaks the truth, he said, and we must honor it. Let this village be an example of justice, compassion, and love. Zainabu smiled, feeling her heart swell. She had turned her pain into power, her suffering into wisdom, and her scars into a story that would inspire generations. And as the villagers cheered, she whispered to herself, I survived. I endured. And now together we will build a world where no one hides behind fear or shame. Weeks after her message to the village, Zainabu called Maikudi and Safia to the palace courtyard. The villagers watched with curiosity, wondering if the former tormentors would face further punishment, or if mercy would prevail. Maikudi's face was pale, her pride diminished. Safia fidgeted nervously beside her. Zainabu approached calmly, her hands folded before her. You have caused pain, she said softly but firmly, and justice was served. But there is something stronger than punishment. Forgiveness. Maikudi's lips trembled. Forgive you? After everything I did? Yes, Zainabu replied. Forgiveness does not erase what happened, but it frees the heart, from hatred, from anger, from the past. If you choose to change, to serve the village with honesty and humility, you may find redemption. Safia's eyes filled with tears. I never understood before, she whispered. I mocked, I laughed. I hurt. I'm sorry, Zainabu. Zainabu nodded, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. It is never too late to change. Use your hands to help, not harm. Let kindness guide you now. Maikudi swallowed hard, bowing her head. I I will do as you say, she murmured. I will serve the village and try to make amends. The villagers watched, some skeptical, some hopeful, but all moved by the queen's grace. Over the following days, Maikuti and Safia worked alongside the community, helping elders, carrying water, and repairing the damage they had caused for years. Slowly, the villagers' resentment softened, replaced with cautious trust. Zainabu observed quietly, a soft smile on her face. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting, but it had a power greater than revenge. By extending mercy, she had transformed not only herself, but those who had caused her pain. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the palm trees, Zainabu whispered to Prince Camel, I never thought I could feel this light. To forgive, it feels like freedom. He took her hand, squeezing gently. You have shown the village and the world what true strength is. It is not in revenge but in mercy, courage, and the heart to rise above cruelty. Zainabu smiled, the soft evening wind carrying away the remnants of fear, shame, and anger. In its place bloomed hope, compassion, and the quiet joy of knowing that even the darkest paths could lead to light. The village square of Umus was alive with color, music, and laughter. Banners fluttered in the wind, drums pounded a lively rhythm, and the aroma of roasted meats and sweet fruits filled the air. The villagers had come together to celebrate not just the queen, but the transformation of their community. Children ran freely, playing games and laughing, their joy unburdened by fear. Mothers served food to everyone, and elders smiled at the sight of unity where there had once been whispers and suspicion. Even Maikuti and Safia moved among the people, helping where needed, faces softened by the hard-won lesson of humility. Zainabu stood at the center, her gown flowing, her healed face radiant. She raised her hands and the crowd fell silent. People of Umus, she began, her voice carrying across the square. Today is a celebration of more than a single life. It is a celebration of courage, kindness, and the power of change. Every act of compassion, every moment of patience, every choice to rise above cruelty brings light into the world. Applause rippled through the crowd. The villagers cheered, hooted, and clapped, many wiping tears from their eyes. They saw not just a queen, but a living example of resilience and hope. Prince Camel stepped forward, taking Zainabu's hand. This day reminds us all that true strength is in the heart, not in appearances. The girl who was hidden, masked, and shunned is now the heart of this village. Let her courage guide us all. Zainabu smiled, feeling the warmth of the community she had once feared. She watched children approach her, asking questions, seeking advice, and sharing laughter. She saw elders nodding approvingly, young women looking inspired, and even former skeptics whispering praise. She leaned close to Prince Camel. I never imagined this day, she whispered. I thought my life would always be defined by fear and pain. He kissed her forehead gently. And yet here you are, proof that no darkness lasts forever, and that a single heart can transform many lives. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and crimson. In the square under the glowing evening light, Zainabu realized that her journey, from masked girl to beloved queen, was more than a story of survival. It was a story of hope, redemption, and the enduring power of kindness. Months passed and Umus thrived under Queen Zainabu's gentle, wise rule. Fields flourished, children laughed without fear, and villagers worked together in harmony. The scars of the past, the whispers, the cruelty, the mask, remained as memories, but they no longer held power over anyone's life. Zainabu often walked among the people, listening, guiding, and teaching. She spoke of courage, kindness, and resilience, reminding everyone that true worth is measured not by appearance, wealth, or status, but by the heart. One morning, as she watched young girls practicing curtsies for a festival, a small voice piped up. Queen Zainabu, will I ever be brave like you? Zainabu smiled and knelt to meet the girl's eyes. Bravery isn't about never being afraid, she said softly. It's about standing tall, being kind, and helping others even when life is hard. You carry that strength inside you already. The girl nodded, eyes wide, and ran off to practice, inspired. Zainabu straightened, glancing at the villagers who had once doubted, mocked, or shunned her. Now they watched with admiration, learning from her example. Even Maikuti and Safia had changed. No longer cruel, they now served the community with humility. I never understood kindness until I saw it in you, Safia admitted one evening. You taught me that strength comes from the heart. Zainabu took her hand gently. Everyone can change, Safiya. It only takes courage and a willingness to listen to your heart. Prince Camel stood beside her, eyes filled with pride. Your journey is a testament, he said. To every girl who feels unseen, to every person who has been shunned, to everyone who has faced cruelty. Your heart is your greatest treasure. And Zainabu has shown that it can light the way for others. Zainabu gazed across the village one last time before turning toward the palace. May the people of Umuse remember this, she whispered. Your worth is not in what the world sees. It is in the choices you make, the love you give, and the courage you carry. That is what lasts. That is what matters. And with that, the girl once hidden by a mask had become a queen whose legacy would inspire generations. A living testament that true beauty, true strength, and true greatness always begin in the heart. The sun set over Umuse, painting the sky in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. In the palace courtyard, Zainabu stood beside Prince Camel, watching the villagers celebrate another day of peace, laughter, and unity. The sounds of music, joyous voices, and children playing echoed through the streets. She smiled, remembering the years when she had been hidden, masked, and shunned. The girl who once believed she was nothing had survived cruelty, endured pain, and emerged stronger, kinder, and wiser. And now she was a queen, a beacon of hope and courage for everyone around her. Turning to the villagers, Zainabu raised her hands. Remember this, she said softly but firmly. Your worth is never measured by your appearance, your scars, or what others say. True strength and beauty are in your heart, in your actions, and in your courage to be kind. The crowd erupted in cheers, clapping, and laughter. Children waved excitedly, mothers smiled proudly, and elders nodded in approval. Even those who had once doubted her, Maikudi, Safiya, and others, stood quietly, their hearts touched by her wisdom and mercy. Prince Camel took her hand, speaking to both her and the crowd. Let this be a reminder, he said, that one heart can change many lives. And today Zainabu's heart has shown us all the power of compassion, patience, and courage. Zainabu looked out over the village one last time before the evening breeze carried her words. To anyone listening, anyone struggling, or anyone who has felt invisible, your heart is your greatest treasure. Believe in yourself, rise above cruelty, and let kindness guide you. She smiled at the camera, speaking directly to the viewers. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs hope today. Remember, no mask, no scar, and no hardship can take away your true worth. As the stars appeared in the sky, Zainabu and Prince Camel walked hand in hand through the palace gates. The village below glowed with warmth, laughter, and light, a symbol of triumph over cruelty, the enduring power of kindness, and the promise that every heart has the strength to rise above darkness. The girl who was once hidden by a mask had become a queen whose story would inspire generations to come.